Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about Michael and Natalie Cochran.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, CashApp, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. Do not forget to tell your friends.
There's something else you can tell your friends too.
What's that?
We're going to release on Tuesday and Friday, like we normally try to do. But there's a special day in between there.
What's that?
Your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure y'all wish Darren a happy birthday.
That'd be on a Thursday.
Yeah. So we're all happy he was born. Yay.
February 6th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good times.
I'll be another year older.
Well, it's actually, you celebrate the end of the year. I don't know if y'all realize that. But we celebrate the end of the year.
How old will I be this year?
Oh my God.
Was it 46?
Yes.
Yeah, 46.
Every time. He asked me every time.
There was one year, though, I was like, what was I, 31 for 2 years?
No, you were 30. So you were like, oh, it's my dirty 30. I said, no, it's been your dirty 30.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were turning 31.
Good times.
He don't know. He don't know.
Good times. That's when I started, forgetting stuff and everything. And that's why she had to start telling me stories.
That's when that old timers kicked in.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to lie. This one we're doing today was totally under the radar. But the trial just happened, so I've been in virtual court for the last little bit, watching and waiting. If you haven't heard of this one yet, you are not alone. There are so many I've talked to that have never heard of Natalie Cochran. And we're going to change that today. So strap in, kids. This is a double whammy.
2 cases in one.
2 cases.
Two cases in one?
Buy one, get one free.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about and a lot of people involved. So we're going to have to do this in 2 parts. So this is going to be a full week of Natalie and Michael Cochran.
2 parts.
2 parts.
Deuce, baby.
He's getting wild in his old age.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Try not to get whiplash too, because both sides have a very different version of things. So just a little background, because there's a lot of facts. So we're just going to do a little background. Michael and Natalie met when they were just 17 years old. According to his mom, Donna, after high school, Michael went to WVU, which is West Virginia University, in 1999 to play baseball and ended up majoring in IT. So they found him a mobile home in a mobile home community for the elderly. And they got that for him to stay in while he was at school. Talk about, you're sticking a college kid in the middle of a retirement community. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see you find it funny too. I find it so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Anyways.
So funny.
So Natalie was, stop it. Natalie was supposed to go to Concord, but followed Michael to WVU and was supposed to stay in the dorms. Now, as you would guess, she was actually staying with Michael in that mobile home. And the families did not know about it. Well, I think hers did, because towards the end, I guess they all found out. Because she would come, his mom would try to come and visit, and he would say, Natalie's family's in town, so you can't come.
Oh.
Yeah. Nice. Even though you bought it for me, I'm going to need you to stay home.
Yeah.
And
sounds legit.
Yeah. Sounds like an 18-year-old. Now, they were still only 18 when Michael proposed to Natalie. And this, along with them already living together, caused a little friction between Donna and Natalie. That's Michael's mom. Michael was supposed to be focusing on school. But in May of 2000, he and Natalie got married. They lived in Beckley, West Virginia. They had a daughter, Nicole, and then a son a couple of years later. Their son is still a minor right now. He's only 17, so he is mostly referred to as MAC. So I'm going to call him Mac. Michael went on to work in technology and for Workforce West Virginia, and Natalie became a pharmacist.
So they were all living pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they were living pretty good.
Okay.
She had a doctorate in pharmacology, master's in business administration, and an associate's degree in anticoagulation management. She alone made $120,000 a year. They were active in their community and church, and Michael, or sometimes he's referred to as Mike, was into bodybuilding. He won a tough man contest and pulled trucks in competitions, apparently. And this takes us to 2017. Natalie says that Michael asked Natalie to quit being a pharmacist and focus on being a stay-at-home mom while helping with a business. Her last reported income from an outside source was in 2013. Now, in October of 2017, Natalie registered a business under her name, Tactical Solutions Group, or TSG. They would go on to have two businesses, actually, with the other one named Technology Management Solutions, or TMS. According to Mac, this was after Michael was laid off from Workforce West Virginia. What they did was government contracts. So the government puts out a contract for what they need, and it varies. It could be anything, graphic design, building the wall at the border, but the focus in the trials, and yes, I said trials, which is why this is a twofer, was guns, mostly. So say that the DOD needs like 1,000 of some particular firearm. If you're subcontracting like TSG or TMS, you would find someone like a legit firearms dealer willing to give you a discount if you buy in bulk. Maybe you get them for $100,000, but you bid on the contract at $250,000. You win the contract, you fulfill your end of the bargain, and boom, you've just profited $150,000.
I've heard of those before.
Yeah, they're a thing.
Yeah.
They're a real thing. And they, of course, needed a little help getting started. So they took on investors. It was like their parents, other family, and friends, and they eventually spread the net wider to include local business people, things like that. Sorry. The return rate promised was 30%. So you get your investment back plus that 30% on top. And business got good.
Yeah.
They were taking lavish vacations to Paris and Hawaii. They said that they owned 3 properties. They had a 1965 Shelby Cobra kit car, a couple of motorcycles. They mentioned a plane, a hangar for that plane, a Polaris. Nice. Yeah, you'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
A Polaris, a couple of trailers, a Honda Rubicon, and Michael gifted Natalie a pair of $14,000 earrings. So money's good.
Real good.
Real good. And it just kept rolling in. And they were being generous too. They talk about Michael donating a weight room to a middle school, and they bought uniforms for one of the local teams. One of those houses they bought was for a youth pastor that had nowhere to go. And then when he got back on his feet and moved out, they rented it to a friend's aunt. Their 2018 taxes show that Tactical Solutions listed a gross profit of $12,406,564.
Did they mention the website they found?
Trying to get in on it?
All them contracts on, just asking for a friend,
Oh, yeah, of course you are.
Just wondered.
It sounds nice, right?
Oh, yeah.
We don't do nice stories on this channel, and we're just about to get dark.
Okay.
They had a couple of health problems. Natalie has a heart condition. I believe they said that she's had 4 surgeries to date. She was diagnosed with stage 3 chronic lymphocytic leukemia in 2018. I'm going to stumble a lot on words because there's medications listed and things. Just bear with me. She was having chemo and radiation treatments. Michael had back surgery in 2017. His son Max says it's because he did things himself all the time and he hurt himself moving a light pole.
Word.
Yeah, same. But on Halloween, October 31st of 2018, Michael is taken to the hospital. He's sick, and they think it's because of a house that they bought and were renovating. Michael wasn't wearing a mask and was exposed to black mold. But he leaves the hospital. Apparently he hates hospitals. But 2 days later, on November 2nd, his friend Chris had to take him back because he only got worse. According to Natalie, he was having seizures. And at the hospital, he was combative. He was confused and belligerent. They originally thought that he might have a brain tumor, thinking that they saw a mass on his scan. But after further testing, they said it was encephalopathy. That's an infection or swelling in the brain.
Oh.
Yeah. Defense said he had epilepsy, respiratory failure, possible sepsis, an enlarged heart, the seizures, and an altered mental state. He told a friend that he felt like he was being poisoned. They put him on anti-seizure meds, and he would go on about his daily life. But a few months later, on February 6th.
Really?
Yep. That's why I wanted to do it. He would collapse in his kitchen at home. He was taken to Raleigh General Hospital later that day, where he was immediately intubated and put in ICU. A few days later, he was moved to CAMC, which is Charleston Area Medical Center, for 2 days, and then he was transferred to hospice. Roughly 5 hours after he arrived at hospice on February 11th of 2019 at 12:14 a.m., 38-year-old Michael would sadly pass away.
Did he have like a bad seizure?
That's what they thought. Yeah. So they believe that he had this seizure and then his body just never recovered.
So I was thinking like maybe like a brain aneurysm or.
It just seemed out of the blue.
Yeah.
His cause of death was listed as a natural death due to acute respiratory failure and cerebral edema, which is the fluid on the brain. They said he stopped breathing and then his heart stopped. Now, Mac would say that for a couple months after Michael died, Natalie was very heartbroken. But Natalie, being so generous, 2 or 3 months after Michael's death, she went to high schools, awarding Coach Michael Cochran legacy scholarships to high school seniors. She was also trying to adjust to life without Michael. Now, little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she didn't know was possible. On June 25th of 2019, almost 5 months after Michael's death, a federal search warrant was executed on the Cochran's home.
Because of his death?
Because of a Ponzi scheme. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow.
Yeah. Some misused funds with the Little League that she was the treasurer of caused some concern. And after looking into things, it unraveled a whole bunch of shit. It was 7 months after Michael passed away that Natalie was charged with a lot of financial crimes like bank fraud and wire fraud for over $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. She would plead guilty as part of a plea agreement because she was only going to plead guilty to the 2 charges that I mentioned. And in March of 2021, she was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. It would be November of 2021 that she was then indicted for Michael's murder. But that charge was dropped. They had exhumed his body at that 7-month mark after he died, and the cause of death was changed to undetermined. So it was natural. Now it's undetermined. So they wanted to exhume him again.
Yeah.
Natalie was recharged in October of 2023 after they did that. And now we can do a timeline of both cases to see what happened. Now I will say in advance, the state made their case putting everything on Natalie, saying Michael didn't know that the business they were running was a scam. He thought it was a legitimate business. The defense made their case putting everything on Michael. So let us know what you think when you hear all these details.
Well, of course. I mean, he's not there to defend himself.
He's not there, right?
Exactly.
Seems like she's like, well,
it's the way to do it.
Go ask him. Oh, you can't. The business was in Natalie's name. Remember? I said she opened it because it was 100% registered in her name. She says it's only because women get more opportunities in business. Plus, she's a quarter Native American, so that afforded her even more opportunities.
Yeah.
But in all reality, she was a 51% owner and Michael was 49%. Now she's saying that Michael ran everything, that it was only in her name so that they could get more opportunities for business contracts because she was a woman and Native American. And this all came out after Michael died, like you said. So only Natalie is there to answer for these allegations in federal court. It was said that the business was taking in funds from investors and using that money to show to like lenders that these were business profits. And they were getting loans on top of the money that they were getting from the investors. Natalie was accused of stealing the identities of government employees by emailing people using made-up email addresses of these workers to show that the business was legitimate. So like maybe she was from the Treasury and she sent the bank a letter saying this is a legitimate business and this is how much money they have and what it's worth and blah, blah, things like that. Yeah. Now, she filed bankruptcy at one point, saying she only had $600 to her name and $1.4 million in liabilities. The problem with that was she didn't list any of the investors. She didn't list them as creditors that she owed money to, and she didn't list them as people who had put money into her business that she had access to. So, bankruptcy fraud was added to the list too. She must have forgotten about that.
Mm-hmm.
The business did a fundraiser where people played bingo and they raffled off semi-automatic weapons.
Wow.
That raised more than $16,000.
I bet it did. I go play bingo.
Right, bingo. But the check that TSG gave the league for that donation bounced. They never got that money.
So people didn't get their guns either.
I didn't see anything that said they actually got guns. All a ruse.
Wow.
So the community is being screwed right along with family and friends. Now, Michael's mom, Donna, and his stepdad, Ed, gave their life savings to Natalie, like $290,000. Natalie's sister and her husband invested around $494,000. You heard numbers like $76,000, $44,000, $15,000. Everyone invested differently. Some saw no return on their money. Some would reinvest. So technically, they really didn't ever see money either. She'd be like, oh, you made this much. And they'd be like, just put it into something else. And some people would get a little back just to appease them. And that's where the Ponzi scheme title comes into play. Because if you get one investor, then you get a couple more, you use a little bit of those to pay this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scheme.
Yeah. And I mean, and you see those still today. I mean, they
All
don't
the
call
time.
them that, but they'll call them and I call them the pyramids.
They're multi-level marketing. Yeah.
And they're like, it's not a pyramid scheme. Yes, it is. Because whenever they
does it
sit
make
there,
the shape of a pyramid?
they're like, here, it's this way, and then this, and then this,
Branches
and then
out.
this, and then this. I'm like, what does that make? It's a pyramid.
Follow along, kids.
I mean, you got to really watch these things that come out because these people are coming out with these new health things and everything else, and they're like, oh yeah, if you do this and you sell under this person and everything,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. And then you get two other people to sell under you, and then they get two other people to sell underneath them, and then they get two other people. And then next thing you know, everybody's making money except for the last people.
Yeah, those first people on the list, they get lost in the shuffle. And It just keeps trickling.
So.
Yes. So I would say one of the saddest cases that you hear about would be Michael's parents, because that was their whole life savings. And they now live solely on Social Security and a prayer that nothing breaks down because they can't afford to fix it. And they're driving like 20-year-old cars and they're barely making it 1 month to the next. It's very sad.
Yeah. So, I mean, was Michael involved?
Right.
I mean, I couldn't screw my parents over like that.
I could. Right. Right.
I mean, so was he involved?
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Actually, that's still one of those things that's up in the air.
Yeah, because, I mean, right now he's not here to answer for it.
He's not, but we have text messages and we have friends and family, and we got a lot of information to get to because there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for all we know, he's the one that was in the dark.
Right. Right.
This whole time.
And this is the problem with this case, is that you have to figure it out yourself because there's no hard proof.
Yeah. And when he came into it and everything, it was just one of them deals where he was just kind of following suit with how it was being ran, and he wasn't really sure about it.
I asked you when this case first started in the trial, you might not remember, but I was like, hey, if I was bringing in like millions of dollars, do you remember that now?
Yeah.
Would you ask me where it came from? He said, nope. So keep that in mind.
I'd be like, what can I do?
Yeah. How can I help?
Yeah.
Now,
that's true.
Now, one victim was a mother with a sick son who was convinced by Natalie that this was a good opportunity for her to be able to bring in income so that she wouldn't have to work outside of the home. So that leaves more time for her to take care of her son. Another victim was a man with a sick daughter who was on the road, and this would help him stay home more. So you can really see kind of a pattern here where a really sick person is targeting these people who are already struggling to make things work, and then taking money from them that they could be using for the treatment of their sick children. Yeah. So it's really shitty. And that's a little insight into what the business was doing before Michael's death. And we'll get into the state murder trial. Natalie had to be brought in from her room at the federal prison for the trial, because remember, she's already serving time. Natalie's mom testified that Michael had watched the movie War Dogs, and that's how this all started.
Oh. I was like, man, it's like Jonah Hill and
Right. That other kid
the other one.
from the boxing movie. Can't think of his name. So he was already obsessed with all things military. So this was literally right up his alley. Both Michael and Natalie were on the business bank accounts and both spent money out of those accounts. But there seemed to be a little change in things around August of 2018. Now, to preface this, Michael was a bodybuilder. According to his kids, he took all the supplements you can buy at GNC. One said that he took 30 pills every morning, and one said it was more like 40 pills every morning. He would take them by the handfuls. Nicole said he would just wash them down with water out of the kitchen sink, but Max said that he would wash them down with a protein shake.
Gains, bro.
Apparently, he was doing the most. They said that when he laid the pills out on the counter, they equaled the size of a dinner plate. And the defense really pushed that Michael was also taking steroids that he had gotten from Mexico. There was no proof in the trial that he had ever got steroids from Mexico, and there was no proof that he had ever taken steroids. So this is just part of the defense. Do with that what you will. Natalie did text a friend the link to one of these steroids, but it wasn't even for anything from Mexico. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, but she was like, he's been taking these and they're from Mexico, and they weren't. So again, just take it into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, they're just trying to run his name through the mud right now.
There's going to be a lot of that. Several people also testified that Natalie is the one who set up his meds for him. So like she did his little, you do like your little pill thing where it's like Monday through Friday or whatever. I guess she did something similar to that for him so that they'd be ready every morning. You couldn't put those in one of the, I don't think they have one big enough. You'd have to use like a Tupperware container to put the amount of pills in there he'd take every day. So Mac said, the son, he said he saw Michael inject himself with something one time. Natalie's, yeah.
I mean, that could have been like testosterone. Could have been low on testosterone.
Look at you.
I mean,
Natalie's sister also said while on vacation, she walked in on Michael injecting himself with something. So those are the only 2 times at trial that we heard anything about him injecting something. They didn't know what it was. They only saw it one time each. There's literally no proof. The problem with this is there's no real hard evidence going on.
Yeah.
Natalie's sister, I already said that. I'm sorry, my notes. Now, Natalie's sister is also a school principal. And she said in August of 2018 that Michael and Natalie came to the school so that Michael could tell her that from now on, she needed to deal only with him when it came to the business, not Natalie anymore. Natalie also sent out texts at this time to several people saying, after all your contracts pay out, I won't be able to invest them anymore. I wasn't as transparent with Michael on all the contracts we had in the works. In some, she says she should have been completely transparent with him. So she worded them all a little different, but they all said the same thing.
So, I mean, that right there shows, right? I mean, that's kind of proof that she's keeping stuff from him.
That he's finding out. Yeah. He's realizing something's going on.
Yep.
Right? So this is August of 2018. He's like, something's happening. And I read it the same way. He had apparently got a hold of her phone. Now, Mac would go on to say that he would take her phone from her all the time. So that might have been one of the times he did. And he saw things that maybe they weren't how they thought they were. But she pressed on. The money's coming. Everyone testified that Michael was always working on contracts. The defense says that this shows he was completely involved in the scam. But his friends all said that Michael always told them that he did the research and found the contracts and then would send ones that they could actually fulfill to Natalie for Natalie to work on the actual bid and stuff like that and then handle the money. So however deep you think he was involved, go right ahead. Also in August, Natalie texted Michael a list of money coming in. I want you to hear these. This is literally how the text reads. 3.45 million should post tonight at midnight. 300,000 Wednesday. 1.25 million Thursday. 724,000 Monday of next week. 2.56 million next Friday. 108 million by October 12th. And 131 million by December 31st.
That's a lot of money.
That is a shit ton of money. It would have been a shit ton of money. But she told them that there was an audit being done in the government, and they were holding the funds until that audit was completed. So that's her list. So when they get done with the audit, all this money is supposed to come dropping into the account. Then in October, she tells them that the audit is done and they should have the money around October 29th. Now, I don't know if you're paying attention to my timeline here, but this was October 29th when they're supposed to get this money. And Michael went to the hospital because he was sick on Halloween 2 days later. Then again on November 2nd because he was worse, remember? Natalie was telling them that he had a seizure and they were worried about a brain tumor. They ran the test and found that there were mold spores in his spinal fluid. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And this is also around the time that Natalie was diagnosed with cancer. She was using symptoms of the treatment as reasons why she couldn't meet with people who were asking about their money. Like, oh, sorry, the radiation makes me so tired. Or I was up all night sick because of the chemo. In December, they got a letter from BB&T, their bank, one of their banks. It's about to shut down their accounts. Michael goes down there to raise hell. They have plenty of money. What's the problem? His friend Chris Davis had to come to the bank and calm him down. And Natalie's like, don't worry. There's this contract up for bid for 50 cows, which is $244 million, and we could make $378 million on it.
These amounts are just getting so more, they're just getting ridiculous.
They're getting ridiculous. And she's using them as deterrents. So the money's supposed to be there, and then he gets sick. And then he's like, wait, what about that money that was supposed to come in? And then she gets cancer.
Yeah.
And then it's like these things are all falling on. And he's like, well, I'm about to go to this bank. I'm so mad. And she's like, don't worry, honey. Here's some more money that we can make. Let's look at that. So there's like all these little distractions. And then, okay, the audit's done now, right? So this money should be coming in. And then wouldn't you know it, the government shut down. Now, the government really did shut down at this time. So she actually had an excuse on this one. The end of January, so the 30th and the 31st. She lets him know that investors have been told the funds would be released on February 1st. And he asked if she was 1,000% sure. And she said, yes, posting tomorrow.
Let me guess.
Bank of America did not show the funds in their account. And Natalie let him know that Betsy Britton, a defense finance accountant, was holding up those funds.
Oh my gosh.
No big deal though. She's going to get it all sorted out. Now, spoiler alert, Betsy Britton doesn't exist. She's not a real person. On February 4th, she let him know that 4 transfers were on their way and they would have $4.8 million and then $23.28 million more tomorrow.
Hell, I've stopped listening to her at this point.
Like every single time something's happening.
Yeah.
She also texted Michael that day that she went to the pharmacy and asked if he needed anything. She's like, hey, I'm here at the pharmacy picking my stuff up. Do you need anything? She was picking up her Xanax. Sounds like she needed it. February 5th, Natalie goes to Access Health to see her doctor, saying that she has flu-like symptoms. She tested negative for the flu and negative for strep throat. He gave her an oral steroid burst, and he did testify that this could cause an increase in blood sugar, so keep that in mind. She also texted her friend Stephanie, who is a physician's assistant, telling her that she had pneumonia. Where'd that come from? It didn't come from the doctor. But anyways, she asked for methylprednisolone. Yep. A corticosteroid that you use for allergies, inflammation, immune system issues, all kinds of things. Now, Stephanie said that she could call her in some pills, but Natalie was very insistent that she wanted something that she could inject. And Stephanie called it in for her. When that $27 million wasn't in that Bank of America account, Michael decided that they were going to go to the bank in person to straighten things out. Remember what happened when we went to the bank last time?
Yep.
So they made plans to borrow the neighbor's plane.
Nice.
To fly to the bank the next day. And they had an appointment set up with the bank. Now, this is Bank of America, But they sent them over to US Bank, which is like their mama company, because they need to get their account completely set up. So when you're throwing around big numbers like she likes to do with their millions of dollars all the time, you're a high profile. So they want to, roll out the red carpet. You can't just walk in and slap $100 bill on the counter and get your free toaster. That's not how this one works.
I wonder what the gift for opening up a multi-million-dollar account.
Yeah, I wonder what you get for that.
Like a Bentley?
You get yeah, why not? I wonder what they do. Hey, if you're rich, could you tell me what you got for opening your account?
Yeah.
I want to know.
No, I don't want to know.
I do. It's always wild to me when they give rich people free stuff. Like they can't afford it themselves.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't get it. But like I said, the parent bank needs to do all the setup and make sure that everything's going to go just fine for you. Michael is ready to give the bank a piece of his mind. He's pissed.
I bet.
Natalie had been telling them now that it was all their fault, that their money had been released, but the bank is holding it now. They had millions, they just couldn't access it. But the banker testified at trial, and he said that their account at Bank of America was not even active. Like they had started the process of getting an account, but they literally had to meet in person to sign a bunch of papers and get their signature cards and finalize everything. So that's what he thought this meeting was for. But he was about to get a shitstorm coming from Michael.
Yeah.
Now, just because this account wasn't active did not stop Natalie from writing checks on the account, though, even though there was no money in it. So now we're on February 6th.
Why'd they even give her checks if it wasn't even active?
I never understood that. I mean,
they wouldn't even give us cards until we
get
signed.
Nothing. Yeah. I don't know, but she had them. I don't know. She had to have them, and they did have to come to the bank at some point. So I don't know. She texted Michael's friend Chris that morning. That's the neighbor with the plane. At 6:34, saying that she had a 103-degree fever. A minute later at 6:35, she texted his pilot saying that they needed to reschedule the flight for that day. Now, Michael, like I said, was ready to go. He said he and Chris could go and straighten out the bank stuff and then just bring her signature card to get it notarized later. But she was having none of it. At 6:37, so these are all texts happening within minutes of each other, Michael texts Natalie to contact Courttv to wire between $5,000 to $10,000 into that Bank of America account.
So he thought the account was active?
He thought it was active because Natalie was telling him it was active.
Gotcha.
So sad. Can't wire money into an account that's not open.
You're right.
She emailed the bank at 6:47 saying that she had been up all night sick and they weren't going to make it to the meeting. She rescheduled it for the next day. But then later that afternoon, she would email again and say that they weren't going to make it the next day either. Natalie shows back up at Access Health around 8 or 8:30 that morning, and she's there until about 9:30 or 10. She's there again because she's saying she has the flu-like symptoms still and they're getting worse. Now she's throwing up. They do another test and it's still negative. This time they give her an injection and an oral prescription for promethazine, which is an antihistamine. While she's at the doctor, Michael is out and about. At 8:37, he got them both Starbucks. She texted him saying she was at the doctor getting swabbed again, getting another shot, and both of them meds. Now, the doctor testified that he gave her no medication for Michael, didn't write any prescriptions for Michael that day. He doesn't know why she said that because she didn't even mention Michael at that doctor's appointment. So why is she telling Michael she's getting him meds?
Yeah.
Plus, the med that she did get, the promethazine, Michael's allergic to that.
Great.
So it's definitely not for him. She must be a super texter too because she was texting everybody. She texted someone else saying that Michael was so mad about missing the meeting at the bank that he took 2 of her blood pressure pills. Why? She texted her neighbor Jennifer, that's the neighbor with the plane, her husband's Chris, later that morning. Now, so they're friends and they're neighbors. So they're like all together all the time.
Did they invest with her too?
Yes. So Chris and 2 of his business partners did invest. And actually on the 5th, when they were making arrangements to fly to the bank, Michael actually texted Chris "We're so close, buddy," because he thought that they were finally going to see some money coming in. The defense liked to ask everybody and their dog if they lost money in the scam to show that they had like 15,000 reasons to hate Natalie and testify against her. You know what I mean? So they're always like, did you lose money? Is that why you're testifying that you don't like her because you're mad at her? You know, shit like that. Anyways, Jennifer and Chris's son is a diabetic. Natalie texts her that both her and Michael are at home sick. She tells Jennifer that the cancer treatments include steroids, which causes her blood sugar to go up, and she would use insulin to bring it back down. That morning, the doctor from Access Health had called her in a prescription for insulin, but she was too sick to get it. So she asked if she could borrow a bottle of her son's insulin. Now, Jennifer had Chris take a bag with the insulin, which is Humalog, Propel, and I think a Diet Coke that Natalie also asked for, and leave it at their front door because they're sick. Don't go in.
So what did the doctor say about, that whenever he was on the stand?
That he did not call Natalie in a prescription for insulin that day. They did not talk about insulin that day. Yes. Jennifer texted her that she wished she could have done more for her, and Natalie responded, "That was perfect." Now, sometime around noon or so, something happens to Michael. We don't know the exact time. We just know that around noon to noon 30, Natalie sent several people a picture of Michael unconscious on the kitchen floor. She texted 2 contractors that work for them at about 12:21. Now, they were leaving Lowe's at the time, and she tells them that Michael got sick and was laying on the kitchen floor and asked them to come over and help. They went straight to her house, getting there between 12:30 and 12:40, and got Michael off the floor and onto the couch. Natalie told them that Michael got sick in the sink and lowered himself to the floor using the cabinets. Her friend Stephanie, the physician's assistant, remember? Natalie didn't call her. Instead, she called Stephanie's husband, John, who's a trooper. When he got there, Michael was still unconscious. He asked Natalie if she wanted to take him to the hospital, and Natalie said, no. He just had a seizure, so we're just going to let him sleep it off. So he called Stephanie and was like, you need to come by and check on Michael and bring a thermometer to take his temperature.
Wait. Wasn't she telling people that she was sick and running 103 fever?
Yes, she 100% told people, several people, she had 103-degree fever. Yeah.
But she doesn't have a thermometer?
No. She does not have a thermometer at the house. So how does she know she had 103-degree fever?
I mean, no, we know she likes making up numbers.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's about 103.
Let's see.
Yeah. 102.7. We'll round up.
It's definitely 103.
Money, temperatures, nothing's off limits. Now, when Stephanie gets there, she sees a blood pressure machine with numbers already on the screen, like someone had just taken his vitals, and he has a pulse ox reader on.
So she got all that by not a thermometer.
She got all that other stuff, but not a thermometer. Why? So the only thing Stephanie really did was take his temperature. And she told him, don't hit me, Mike. I'm going to take your temperature because he's unconscious. She says he needs to go to the hospital. But Natalie says, no, he'll get mad. He hates hospitals. Stephanie tells her, you can blame it on me then, but you need to get him to the hospital. But Natalie wouldn't budge. His vitals seemed okay, and they weren't talking Natalie into doing anything. So most of everybody left. There were people in and out of the house all day. She did text Natalie several hours later to see if he had woken up at all, but he hadn't woken up. And this was like 3 or 4 hours later. Natalie told her that her and her sister had changed his clothes because he urinated on himself. So Stephanie again told her he needs to go to the hospital, especially since he's now losing the ability to control his bodily functions. And Natalie sent her a text of his readings, like off of all these monitors she's got him on. She says pulse is 74. O2 stat is 97. Blood pressure, 168/103. Blood glucose, 115. And RR, which is respiration, is 10. So his blood pressure is up a little bit and his respirations are low, but everything else seems to be okay. It was about 6 p.m. that Captain Chris made it over there. And I call him Captain Chris because we've talked about cases where the friends really come through. And Chris is one of those friends. There's been several people, like I said, in and out of the house that day. By this point, the kids have been home from school for several hours. They'd all tried sternal rubs, like sternum rubs, running their fingers on the bottoms of his feet. Chris tells him, I'm going to touch your head, which Michael hates. No reaction to anything. So Chris wasn't taking no for an answer. He's taking Michael to the hospital.
Somebody is, damn.
Yeah.
I mean, how long, it's been? What is it, 6 hours now?
When he got there, it was 6. So now we're closer to 7 or 8 hours that he's been laying here on this couch unconscious. They loaded him up in Chris's truck, and Chris drove while Natalie rode with Michael to Raleigh General Hospital. The average blood glucose level is between 80 to 120. He was at 115 at around 6:30 when she sent that text to Stephanie. By the time they got him to the hospital, it's around 8:30, and his blood glucose is 21. 21 is in a coma and near death. And we know what happened after that. So when he went to the hospital, that was the problem. His blood sugar was low. It was bottoming out. Now, his parents weren't told that anything was even wrong until about 10 o'clock that night. His mom, Donna, who is a nurse, by the way, and only lived about 10 minutes away from Michael and Natalie, so I'm not sure why they didn't call her. Donna had a lot to say on the stand. But according to her, Natalie told them that they couldn't come to the hospital because only one person was allowed in the ICU. I guess rotation isn't allowed. So when we have somebody who's in the hospital, it's 2 people. You can't have more than 2 people in the ICU room at a time. But we rotate out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We rotate out. If the spouse is there and the spouse doesn't want to leave, fine. One person will rotate out at a time. That way that person can stay there. But maybe it's different in West Virginia. They were saying only one allowed, or Natalie was saying only one allowed. Now on the 9th, she texted Stephanie, the PA, saying, we stopped TPN and are cutting the vent tomorrow. I'm confident this is what Mike would want. He wouldn't want to be a vegetable in a bed. Now the middle school baseball was having that bingo we talked about earlier with the high school volleyball as a fundraiser that Saturday. So Natalie was still working on that while they were in the hospital. You got to get that money. For the kids, of course. Just for the kids. But she also texted Jennifer saying, I hope the swelling affects the mean side of his brain and the rest stays good. Jennifer didn't understand that because she said there's nothing about Michael that indicated that he was any more mean than the average person. Not mean enough to warrant their wife saying that she hoped his brain swelling made him nicer. She also testified that when Michael was in hospice, she asked if there was anything that she could do for Natalie. And Natalie said, if you could help me hold a pillow over his face, because I don't like seeing him this way.
That's just messed up.
Now, when she said this on the stand, the camera panned over to Natalie and she looked so offended, like mouth open, like that face. That was the face she made. And she started scribbling on a piece of paper like, you tell this bitch. She could not believe what she was hearing. Now, when he got transferred to CAMC, Donna and Ed could come. So he spent 3 days at the first hospital, 2 at the second. They did. They showed up. And they said that Natalie was in the corner of the room, phone and laptop all set up, and she was working on contracts. She said, as my precious son laid helpless in the hospital, Natalie even sent texts of government contracts trying to entice us with enormous profit returns. She didn't care about anything or anyone, not even Michael, as he laid in that hospital bed. Now, she also said that on the 10th, a male nurse did a sternum rub, I don't even know the exact way to say that, I should have looked that up, on Michael, and he opened his eyes. Donna said that Natalie looked horrified, but she was excited. A change in his status meant that he could get another MRI. Instead, he was moved to a regular room and then later that night transferred to hospice.
So they didn't do another MRI?
They didn't say one way or another if they did another MRI.
Wow.
But obviously, it sounds like they didn't.
Yeah.
But Donna is also very hurt. I'm not saying that she's incorrect. She was there, not me. but she is under the impression that Natalie had him moved. But I don't know if the hospital would listen to a regular person like that without, having a reason. There has to be certain criteria met to go to hospice. You can't just go because your wife said, take him to hospice.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's just looking for blame to place somewhere, or if Natalie did have some kind of influence. I don't have any idea, but that's what she thinks is happening. Now, I've given you a lot of information, and I think that's where we're going to stop on this one. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. We know that he passed away after that. So we'll pick back up right there on part 2. There's just so much to get into. And even in 2 parts, we won't hit it all. But we're going to give you as much as we can squeeze in. So make sure that you come back for the second part so that you can hear what happens next.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't miss out on the next one. And if you guys would like to show your support,
if you like the content,
if you guys like the content and you guys want to show your support,
yes,
we do have Murder with the Missus.
You have to use the email.
CashApp. You have to use the email dna.truecrime@gmail.com.
And then say it.
Or buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee@/MWTM.
Yes. So don't forget to come back on Friday.
Like I said, you can help out if you want to. Don't have to. But it's greatly appreciated for everybody who has.
And like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Mostly just subscribe and everything. That's what we're really looking for.
Yeah.
So, all right. Until next time, guys.
Bye.